Welcome back. It's Mel here again, and welcome back to your practice. This practice will be the second practice in our series of 4, designed especially for our hypermobile community. So if you haven't been along to the first practice, which was a sensitizing practice, you're welcome to push pause and come on back when you're ready. But you can also take this practice standalone as well. This practice will be more of a release practice. So now that we've brought a little bit more awareness into the body, we might like to work with some of the things that have come up or potentially that you've noticed throughout your day. So I find this practice particularly useful for releasing physical tension, but it could be useful for other things like emotions or even thought patterns that have come up and you'd like to explore in an embodied way. So what I'd also like to say is that this practice is good for a hypermobile body. But again, if you're someone who is hypermobile and has a little bit more stiffness or tension, this can be really useful for you too. So you won't need any props necessarily today. I'm just going to be practicing on a mat on the floor, which you can see behind me. So a mat works, a towel, a blanket, or even just a carpeted floor for this one. I'm going to give you a little bit of a demonstration and a little bit of guidance to start with. So the practice will start relatively structured, and then I'm going to invite you to move into some movement or practice that's a little bit less structured. And at that point, you can push pause on me and you can practice on your own for as long as you like. Okay. The final thing that I'll say is that there will be, again, just an accompanying playlist or a track that you can play behind this practice if you're someone that finds music helpful. But again, you can just follow the sound of my voice if you would prefer. So let's begin. So we can do this practice today in an all fours position, which looks like this. But if that's not accessible for you, you can do this in a seat as well. So whether that's in a chair or some kind of upright position, either in your all fours position or in a seat would be my recommendation. And I'll give you options for both. So if you're setting up in an all fours like me, placing the palms of your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees directly underneath your hips. Now, if that's difficult to feel, then just have a little look and check that you're where you think you are. From there, it can be tempting to let the head hang, but maybe find a little bit of strength in the upper back and the neck to keep the head level. And then starting with some awareness and movement around the pelvis. So if I start to let my pelvis tip forwards, my tailbone reaches out, I can feel my little sitting bones widen at the back. And my belly relaxes. And then from here, scoop the hips under, a little rock or curl of the tailbone under, completely changes or reverses that shape. So I'm trying to accentuate or exaggerate that a little bit for you so you can see, and hopefully you can. But know that this movement is intended to be quite small. If you're feeling connected to the breath, just starting to let that synchronize with the movement. And if you're not, if this is the first time you've moved your body today, starting to see if you can become aware of that. Then you'll start to make that movement, and as I said, this can be done in a seat too. But then start to make that movement a little bit more or a little bit bigger so that it actually brings in the full spine. So I've curled my tailbone under, I've rounded the spine up and allowed my head to hang. Then if I reach the tailbone out, letting the belly hang, the chest and the collars lift. And again, I've reversed that shape. So keep going with that. If you're someone that's doing this in a seat, you can pop your hands on your thighs and you can do exactly the same movement from sitting. And in fact, it can be really nice to have that contact and feedback with your legs as you go. So just a couple more here, rounding and flattening through the spine. And now you'll find a position that feels relatively straight or neutral through the body. And if you're in an all fours position, can you rock the body weight back towards your heels, kind of like you were taking a seat? Then you'll inhale, rock the body forwards, shoulders over the hands, and exhale as you rock your body weight back. Let's keep it going at this pace. If you're practicing from your seat today, what this could look like as an alternative is sliding your hands down your thighs towards your feet and then bringing yourself back up to upright. So we're still creating the same movement through the hip joint, whether we're in all fours or moving from a seat. Let's just take one or two more here. And then coming back to the top of that movement, and we'll take a little bit of a twist through the upper body. So I'll demonstrate to my right side first, push through my left hand, sweep the right arm out to the side, and open the chest in that direction. You might even like to take your eye gaze up, looking towards those fingertips. Bring that hand down, back to the floor, and then sweep it up. Inhale as you return, and exhale, sweep it up. Continuing with that, if you're someone that's joining us from a seat, you can either take your arms across your chest or behind your head, and the same movement applies. So take an inhale to lengthen tall, and an exhale as we rotate the body to one side. Inhale tall, and then exhale to take it the other way. So whichever variation you're taking today, let's take one more to each direction. One more to the direction you're going in. Those on the floor. You might like to change to the other side if you haven't already. So let's do that together. Pushing through the right hand, opening up, bringing that hand back to the floor. Inhale to open, and exhale to come back down. We just have one more here. Take whichever breath pattern suits your body. And then once you've reached the floor, just feel all 4 points in contact. If you're in a seat, just find a position that feels balanced and symmetrical. And then you might like to take a little bit of a look towards the camera if you weren't already watching me. So this next part, this is where you might like to have that backing music going. This is also where things get a little bit less structured so that you can move in a way that matches where you're at and supports the feelings, the sensations that have arisen in your body. So if I'm moving from an all fours, this time I am going to close my eyes. If the eyes need to pop open at any point, know that you can do that, but try to keep them closed where you can. So with my eyes closed, I can get a little bit more of a read on, let's today call it any stiffness, stuckness, or maybe even achiness in the body. And that will be different for all of us. When you can locate something there, if you can't, sometimes moving can help with that. Start to move with that feeling, which I know can sound a little bit abstract, but with this practice I'm going to encourage you to move into those feelings of stiffness, stuckness, or achiness, whatever word resonates for you. Move into or move with. You might naturally start to breathe as you explore those areas. If you notice your body holding the breath, see if you can release that. Maybe the movements start kind of small, but if it feels supportive for you, you can expand and open those movements at any point. If you're someone who moves with a lot of control, with precision, maybe someone like me who's got a movement training background, try a movement that's a little less precise. Move away from things that are really habitual and sometimes familiar. Feel free to make the edges a little jagged so that we're not so caught up with the technique. And we have started in an all fours position or a seat, but know that you can move around and change positions as you go. It's very likely that as you move with some of these sensations, that they will change. And so if that does happen, then you can always find another area and move with and into that. Now it is a release practice, and so you might be thinking and maybe even hoping that some of these things might move on, in which some cases it does, but they also may not. So we're making room for whatever the experience is today. So I think that's all I need to tell you. And as I mentioned, there's some backing music that you can put onto this. So at this point, I'll encourage you to push pause. This video clip will end soon, and continue moving, whether that's for 30 seconds, a minute, it can be longer, whatever you feel like you need. And we'll see you on the mat next time.